You want a war? You're gonna get one.
Now get the guns, the drugs from my generation. I'll take the fall, the saints, the confirmation. And it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, the messing with me. Come on, come on, come on. Let's get it out. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
Welcome back to Reliving the War, and welcome to the 15th of June 1998. We're officially halfway through 1998. Raw comes from San Antonio, Texas tonight, while Nitro's in Uniondale, New York. We've got a big one this week with the fallout from Great American Bash happening on Nitro, while the Hell in a Cell hangs above the ring over on Raw. So let's not waste any time, and we'll take a look at WCW's first hour on TNT. Nitro opened up right away with another Public Enemy versus Hugh Morrus and Barbarian street fight. Absolute chaos to kick things off with loads of trash can bumps and all that good stuff. Jimmy Hart got involved as usual, using a trash can lid to hit Rocco Rock, but he ended up getting suplexed into the ring and also used as a battering ram to end the match. The heels go through a few tables and Public Enemy win the Nitro opener. Old Jimmy Hart isn't doing much these days, is he? Outside the arena, Mike Tenay stood beside another mid-card barbecue, and he wanted to know who the fans thought Sting was going to pick tonight as his tag team partner. This little dude thinks it's going to be Lex Luger, but our guy here thinks otherwise. Randy Savage comes to the ring and he says Diamond Dallas Page is going to get tested tonight. Page is apparently on his way to Nitro from Salt Lake City after attending the Utah Jazz vs Chicago Bulls finals, but when he gets to Nitro he's going to have a challenge to answer. Savage says the Wolfpac want DDP in the faction, but Randy isn't so sure. So tonight Randy Savage wants a match against DDP inside a steel cage to see if he's worthy of wearing the red and black. We'll hear from Dallas in a moment. Chris Benoit and Fit Finlay then had a great match where the two men beat the hell out of each other. This was leagues better than Finlay versus Booker T the night before at the Great American Bash. It's almost like Chris Benoit made people up their game when stepping inside the ropes. Benoit got the win with the crippler crossface, and after the bout, Benoit invited Booker T to the ring. He says he wants to do something he should have done at the beginning of the Best of 7 series. Booker comes down to the ring along with Stevie Ray, and Benoit shakes Booker's hand. He calls Booker the toughest opponent he's ever faced and a man he respects. Booker shares the same sentiments, but when Benoit says he'd happily stand in Booker's corner if he ever needed backup, Stevie Ray takes it personally. Stevie interrupts Benoit a few times, saying Harlem Heat have a tag team title shot tonight against Sting and his new partner, and he also says Booker would have beaten Benoit a lot earlier if Booker just did what Stevie told him to do. Benoit tries to offer his services again, but he gets blindsided by Stevie. Booker tries to break things up, but Benoit gets help in the form of one Steve McMichael. Big Mongo's back and Booker has to work extra hard to stop these guys from fighting. The crowd lose their minds here. They chant "We Want Flair" as two of the Four Horsemen reunite on Nitro. Harlem Heat get out of the ring and Benoit says he doesn't care about NWO Red and Black. He doesn't care about the black and white.
What I'm here for!
Diamond Dallas Page then gets interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund, and Page says he doesn't care about the Wolfpac. He cares about Savage saying that DDP has to prove himself to the Macho Man. So the cage match is definitely on. It's going to main event this episode of Nitro. After DDP gets done with Savage, he's going after Hogan and Dennis Rodman. DDP got himself some backup, and the only clue he gives is that this person will help DDP make the NWO feel the bang. The commentators then completely spoil it after a commercial break when they say Karl Malone might be coming to WCW. They talk about rumours of the Utah Jazz power forward getting in the ring, but they can't confirm it yet, so way to go lads. Roddy Piper gets a great crowd reaction from the New York audience, and he says start spreading the news when he gets in the ring. He's here as the commissioner tonight apparently, not a competitor, and he heard Savage laying down the steel cage challenge to Diamond Dallas Page. Piper confirms the cage match is going to happen, but no referee wants to officiate the match because Randy Savage is absolutely mental. So Roddy Piper is going to officiate the steel cage main event. The crowd response to Piper was fantastic here, and Piper knew it too. He was all fired up tonight on Monday Nitro.
Old Chinese proverb says, a t-shirt is worth 1,000 words.
Hey pal, did you know that Hollywood Hogan is an old Chinese philosopher? Yeah, well, he tried to spout that nonsense here in New York, but I said, Hulk, please, for the love of God, would you please shut the hell up? You can pick up his Chinese proverb shirt on WrestlingBios.com though, and if you don't like doing jobs like Hollywood, then I guess this is the t-shirt for you. Pick up a shirt, support Wrestling Bios, and if that doesn't work for you, brother, then, well, you can kiss my keister and suck my giant grapefruits. Let's get back to reliving the war. Thank you for your time.
Raw kicks off with a Sable and Vince McMahon promo. On Nitro, Hiroyoshi Tenzan and Masahiro Chono take on High Voltage. So, Sable's back. That didn't take long at all, did it? She wants to introduce the person responsible for her WWF return, so here comes Vince McMahon on his way to the ring. Vince has prepared a written speech. He hands it to Sable, and Sable reads it out. Vince McMahon, Humanitarian of the Year, would never use charitable organizations to further his personal agenda against Stone Cold Steve Austin. McMahon, the caring, generous, and jovial owner of WWF, is going to bring the parties responsible for last week's attack to justice. After reading this speech, Sable gets a kiss on the cheek from Vince McMahon. Ugh. And just before McMahon can leave, the glass shatters and Stone Cold heads to the ring. Austin holds the ropes open for Sable and she leaves. Austin says he threw up about 6 times while listening to McMahon's speech in the back. He's about to stick his foot in Vince's ass and there's nothing Vince McMahon can do about it. Vince gets out of the ring when Stone Cold steps in and McMahon pleads for Austin to listen to reason and not react in a physical or violent way. Stone Cold's not buying it. He stalks McMahon around the ring for a bit and McMahon then blurts out that it was The Undertaker. The Undertaker set Austin up last week. McMahon reminds Austin that The Undertaker wants the WWF Championship. Taker knew McMahon was going to call the cops after he chokeslammed all those superstars last week, and everyone fell for it. Undertaker surrounded himself with cops so he wouldn't have to run down for the save. Taker's theme music plays in the arena. Taker gets in the ring while Vince gets out, and the dead man says he challenged Austin like a man. He challenged Austin respectfully because Undertaker still respects the WWF title. McMahon's telling lies, of course, and just as the Undertaker promises to remove McMahon's head from his shoulders, the lights go out and Kane's pyro goes off. Kane, Mankind and Paul Bearer stand on the entranceway, and Paul says Undertaker and Paul Bearer himself came up with that plan last week. McMahon didn't know it, Austin didn't know it, but Paul says he and the Undertaker devised last week's plan in hell and it worked out pretty well. Still though, Paul wants to see a fight, so a challenge gets laid out. Austin and The Undertaker versus Kane and Mankind, tonight on Raw, inside Hell in a Cell. Ooh. On Nitro, IWGP Tag Team Champions Tenzan and Chono, representing NWO Japan, took on High Voltage, and I was rooting for my boys Chaos and Rage here, not because I think they're better than Tenzan and Chono, but because they constantly have to job out on Nitro every time they're here after putting on some pretty entertaining tag team matches. Getting to see NWO Japan guys on Nitro is always a treat though. Fans in the audience couldn't have cared much as they continued to chant "We want Flair" as the match progressed. Chono performs a diving shoulder tackle, Rage replies by breaking through the NWO guys with a double clothesline, and after an overhead belly to belly from Rage, Chono and Tenzan take a timeout and they stay out there for quite some time. They did this so Nitro could take a commercial break, but the timing was all screwed up. We come back to a devastating chinlock from Robbie Rage. Tenzan fights out and Rage gets chopped down. Chono comes in with a neck breaker as the crowd chant boring. And towards the end of the bout, High Voltage seemingly have a chance when they pull off a few double team moves, including a modified heart attack and a Boston Crab leg drop combination. Check out the audience though when Chaos goes up for an aerial attack. Something's going on in the crowd and not a single person wants to watch the match. Anyway, Chaos misses a shoulder block. Chono hits the Yakuza kick and the High Voltage boys look up at the lights one more time. The Rock vs Vader on Raw. On Nitro, the Wolfpac cut a promo. The Raw match is another King of the Ring qualifier, and here's the matches we'll see this week. We're finally going to see Sean Waltman compete again on Monday Night Television. Commissioner Slaughter seems to have only one job these days, sending the nation back to the locker room. Rock infuriated the big man by slapping him across the face and laying in a few right hands, but Vader comes back with a few of those big forearm shots followed by a corner splash and a short arm clothesline. Jim Ross says Vader might not be able to stand the heat in San Antonio, with an emphasis on the word heat, and Michael Cole says Vader's in bad shape because he didn't work out while he was injured. Obviously the guys were fed these lines, but this feeds into the stuff I talked about in the Over the Edge video. It definitely seems like McMahon had soured quite a bit on Vader. He hits a splash on Rocky and Rock comes back with a DDT. The IC champ then performs a people's elbow, but he's unable to successfully pin Vader. The big man comes back with a knockdown followed by another splash, and Rock then sends Vader out of the ring for the finish. Mark Henry runs down and the world's strongest man splashes Vader. Loads of splashing in this match. Rock brings Vader back in the ring for a rock bottom, and Rock advances in the King of the Ring. Backstage, DX are dropping some knowledge. Road Dogg talks about the upcoming match of the year featuring X-Pac and Triple H. He warns X-Pac to watch out for the pedigree, saying as it could snap his neck again if he's not careful, and as for Triple H, his nose is so big that it's an easy target for X-Pac's lightning fast kicks. So both guys better go into this one prepared. On Nitro, Wolfpac members Kevin Nash, Konnan and Lex Luger get in the ring. After Konnan gets the crowd hyped up, Big Sexy says life is full of ironies. The last man to join the Wolfpac was the first man to bring some gold to the faction. Nash wants to introduce this man to the Nassau Coliseum, so here comes Sting holding the WCW Tag Team titles. Sting thanks the audience for the warm response. He notices a lot of red and black in the crowd tonight, and he talks about the credentials of his Wolfpac comrades. Big Nash is a giant killer. Luger's held every belt known to man. That's a lie, but still. K-Dog was and still is a big time player in Mexico. Whatever choice Sting makes in regards to his tag team partner tonight is going to be a good one because he's got such a great selection. But Sting's not telling us his answer right now. He's going to come back out later to let us all know who his partner is. A fine waste of TV time here on WCW Nitro. This was pointless. Next on Raw, Darren Drozdov takes on Double J. On Nitro, Chris Kanyon takes on Sick Boy. As the Raw match gets underway, Mark Mero and Jackie make their way down to the commentary table. Remember, Double J faces Mero in a King of the Ring quarter-final match. As Double J teabags Droz, Marvelous Mark asks JR why his Sable returned. Why was Sable allowed to return after Mark beat her at Over the Edge? Ross has no answers, of course. He tells Mark to take it up with Vince McMahon as Droz performs a power slam. Jarrett delivers a DDT, Droz gets right back up for a jumping back elbow, and at the commentary desk it appears that Jackie and Tennessee AJ Lee are having an argument. Jackie slaps Sweet Tea, Jarrett goes out to see what the problem is, and this gives Mero a chance to hit Double J with a low blow. Droz throws Jarrett back in the ring, and Darren Drozdov beats Double J on Raw's War. Jarrett's left in the corner, coughing his balls up. After the match, Billy Gunn says X-Pac versus Triple H is definitely going to be the match of the year, but you gotta ask yourself, where's China going to be in all this? On Nitro, Sick Boy tried to take the early lead, but Kanyon came back with a smooth swinging neckbreaker. Kanyon then attacked Sick Boy in the corner as the commentators talked about Chris being an innovator of offense, and Kanyon then pulls off another neckbreaker, this time with Sick Boy falling from the top rope. Lodi provides a distraction and Sick Boy hits Kanyon with a diving clothesline from the apron. He follows up with a springboard dropkick back in the ring, and he pulls off an F5 before playing up to the audience. Kanyon's able to wake up and he hits Sick Boy with his electric chair facebuster, and the match ends with Kanyon's new flatliner, the reverse Russian leg sweep. You do hope this push continues for Kanyon, or at least I did anyway. We saw how good he was as Morrus, and it appeared that WCW wanted to present him in a more traditional manner from this point on. So he's definitely one to watch going forward. Chainz takes on Val Venis on Raw. Wolfpac turncoats Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude cut a promo on Nitro. So Mr. Val I Need Jesus Venis gets in the ring and he says everything's bigger in the state of Texas, but that statement wasn't true until Val Venis came. That's not even funny. It's hard to believe they're already running out of good material for the big Valboski. Seriously though, I would really like to know if anyone actually cares about a Val Venis versus Chainz match. I complained about this last week, but I was secretly hoping the Undertaker would show up again to hand out a few choke slams, but no, full match here, clean finish, and I won't put you guys through it because absolutely nothing remarkable happens at all. No cutaways, no backstage interviews during the match, nothing, just Chainz versus Val Venis. It ends with Venis pulling off a power slam. He goes up for the money shot, but he gets his big Val Boski smashed on the top turnbuckle. He then blocks a superplex. Michael Cole says, "Here it comes," as Val hits Chainz with a money shot. And even though Val won the match, it looks like his wee Choppy's been injured due to that top turnbuckle bump. We, as fans, are supposed to sympathise with this. Undertaker then gets interviewed briefly backstage. Double K wants to know if Undertaker can trust Steve Austin, and Undertaker wonders how he's supposed to trust a man who lives by the theory of you can't trust anybody. Fair point, dead man. Undertaker says Austin can trust the Phenom though, because Taker's already made his intentions clear regarding facing Austin for the WWF title. On Nitro, Rick Rude says everyone wants to know why the lads turned their backs on the red and black attack, and the answer is pretty simple. Rude says he and Kurt go with the big cash flow. No matter what Kevin Nash says, Hulk Hogan's where the money is. Rude says if Hennig faced Goldberg at the Bash, the record would have been 99-1. Goldberg may be 101, but Kurt has over 3,000 career victories, and sooner or later, Goldberg will face Kurt Hennig in the ring. Kurt talks about all the swerves he's pulled off since joining WCW. He swerved DDP after his debut, he swerved the Horseman, he swerved Conan last night, but within the white and black NWO, there's no swerving at all. He then says he'd never swerve Rick Rude, and the two give each other this look right here. Interesting, very interesting. Marc Mero versus Dustin Runnels on Raw. James J. Bebe Dillon addresses the Cruiserweight title on Nitro. X-Pac and Hunter are getting ready for their match later. Hunter says he won't lay down for X-Pac, and Kid says he doesn't want him to, he wants Hunter on his knees instead. It's very good. X-Pac says he's all healed up and good to go. Hunter thinks X-Pac has bad breath. Back in the ring, it looks like Marc Mero made the often repeated mistake of attacking someone earlier in the night while he himself has a match booked later on the same show. I'll eat my hat if Double J doesn't show up to cost Marc the victory, and yeah, there he is, along with Sweet T Lee and the giant robot monster, Cyborg Southern Justice. Dustin hits a running clothesline, and keep in mind, Dustin's supposed to be working for free, remember that? He ends up on the outside where Marc throws him into the ring steps, and back inside the ropes, Mero pulls off a powerbomb. His regular powerbomb looks a lot better than his sit-down version. Double J promises to make Mero give up to the figure 4 next week as Dustin delivers his signature grounded punch. Mero then takes an inverted atomic drop followed by a clothesline, but Dustin then makes the mistake of going to the top rope for an aerial attack. Marvelous Marc counters with a Hurricane Rana. Double J, Cyborg Justice, and Tennessee Lee Harvey Oswald get close to the ring to distract Mero, and then Sable walks down the ramp to cause the Marvelous One even more bother. All these distractions lead to Dustin pulling off a bulldog, and Marvelous Marc takes a pinfall loss. And after the bout, Dustin doesn't thank Jarrett or his goons. He doesn't even thank Sable. He thanks his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Innocent enough, but this is going to develop into something more. On Nitro, JJ Dillon wants to talk about the Cruiserweight title. For those who missed the Great American Bash video, Dean Malenko vacated the Cruiserweight belt so he could have a match against Chris Jericho. The title was still up for grabs, but the match ended in disqualification, so the belt is still vacant. Dillon says the referee tried to gain control, but he had no choice but to disqualify Dean Malenko. Dillon also states that going into the Great American Bash, the deal was that the winner of the match would become champion. Jericho did win the match, so he's made the decision to present Jericho with the Cruiserweight title so the championship doesn't get held up any longer than necessary.
A pain of the posterior.
I am the champion, Mean Gene.
Jericho, with a plaster on his head that says champ, says the birds are singing, there's dancing in the streets, because Chris Jericho is once again Cruiserweight champion of the world. So Dillon needs to do what he doesn't want to do. It's time to hand over the belt. Dillon says Jericho's getting the championship only if he defends it against Dean Malenko within 30 days. And Chris says he doesn't need to fight Malenko. Yes, he will defend it within 30 days, but he's beaten Malenko so many times that it's clear Malenko's nothing but a loser just like his daddy. As soon as those words leave Jericho's mouth, Dean Malenko launches an attack. The two fight all the way to the backstage area where Jericho gets thrown into doors, thrown into a dumpster, he gets thrown into a cardboard box, and Bobby Heenan says Chris can now sleep on the streets of New York if he wants to. And the savage beatdown ends when number 1 WCW heel Doug Dillinger intervenes while Chris runs out of the arena. This is what I wanted to see a few weeks back, Jericho and Malenko getting more active in their feud, and I thought this was definitely a step in the right direction. The Triple H vs X-Pac match is next up on Raw. On Nitro, we've got the Giant vs Chris Adams. X-Pac and Hunter argue backstage about who's gonna win, and Chyna tells the boys to get up, get out there and wrestle like men. The two make their entrances, they both join in for the pyro, and then X-Pac tries to steal an early victory, but Hunter kicks out. Some fast and quick counters follow next, and the sequence ends with X-Pac landing a kick and Hunter gets floored. The kid's looking good already. Triple H hits the Harley Race knee as the San Antonio fans start an HBK chant. X-Pac then rolls out to try and regroup, but Chyna then appears and she throws Waltman back in the ring, allowing Hunter to hit a clothesline, an inverted atomic drop, and a suplex. Triple H whips his opponent hard into the turnbuckles. We then see a slight hiccup when X-Pac throws Hunter to the opposite side. It looks like a communication problem, but X-Pac makes up for it with his spinning back kick. Triple H falls to the outside, and Chyna ends up throwing Hunter back in the ring. She wants to see a fair fight between these two degenerates, it seems. Hunter gets kicked again, but he comes back with a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. We see the facebreaker knee smash, and the match ends when X-Pac gets sent out of the ring once again. It's a complete disappointment. The Rock appears in the audience and he distracts Triple H and Chyna while Owen Hart smashes X-Pac's nuts on the guardrail. He asks Triple H if he smells what the Rock's cooking, and if not, he should turn around and get a good whiff because his little DX buddy has just been taken out. Looks like X-Pac's hurt his knee. The referee begins counting when both men are out of the ring and Pac screams at Triple H to get back inside the ropes. It's better that one guy from DX advances in the King of the Ring rather than none. So Hunter takes the countout victory and Hunter advances to the quarterfinals. I was so looking forward to Sean Waltman returning to the ring, and he was definitely back on form during this match. It's just a shame it ended the way it did. All first round matches of the King of the Ring have now ended. Here's a look at the updated brackets. It's good because every quarterfinal match has a little story heading into it, whether it's big or small. These are the kind of details that make tournaments good, and unfortunately, it's these details we don't see much of nowadays. On Nitro, Jan comes out smoking a cigarette. He wants to finish his smoke before beginning the match, so he punches Chris Adams and he goes back to his Marlboro Light. Adams doesn't get the message though, he attacks again. So Jan chokeslams him, and that's the end of the match. Jan heads up the ramp, still puffing away, so he was able to enter the arena, have his match, and exit the arena while still smoking the same cigarette. Magic. We've got promos next. Jerry Lawler and Al Snow on Raw, Hollywood Hogan over on Nitro. The New York audience love Hulk Hogan tonight. Hulk gets in the ring and he welcomes fans to the house that Hogan built, and he reads a sign that says, "On the seventh day, God created Hollywood Hogan." Hulk says Nash and his little buddies wish they could be like Hollywood when the Hulkster was selling out Madison Square Garden, but right now Hollywood wants to address Diamond Dallas Page. Hogan says he'd love to bury DDP 10 feet under, and if DDP has a problem with Dennis Rodman and the Hulkster, then maybe Dallas should do something about it. Hogan heard the rumours in regards to Karl Malone, but Hogan dares DDP to get Karl Malone as backup because Hogan and Rodzilla are once again going to team up at Bash at the Beach, and DDP's got an invite for the pay-per-view. Hogan then delivers another old Chinese proverb: "If my enemy makes me sick, I just slap him with my massive leg drop." NWO for life, bow down to the Hulkster. You could tell that Hogan was excited to be in New York again, and they really should have booked him in a match on this Nitro, but you gotta pay to play, brother. On Raw, Al Snow came down to the ring in his Avatar gimmick, and I had awful flashbacks to late 1995. We don't want to go there again. Jerry Lawler gets in the ring to have a few words with Al. Lawler says he knows it's Al Snow under the mask, he's not fooling anyone. And Al says, yeah, that's the whole point. Marketing genius Vince McMahon came up with the Avatar gimmick and everyone knew it was him under the mask. That's the kind of creative mastermind Jerry Lawler works for. Al's here to make 2 citizens arrests. One for Vince McMahon, that's attempted murder. He attempted to murder Al's career with Avatar, a quote Aldo Montoya-like gimmick. And Snow also wants to arrest Lawler for lewd public conduct. The King promised Al a meeting with Vince, but all Lawler's done is slip Snow the sausage and give him a ride on the baloney pony. The King says the problem is Head. Snow needs to get rid of Head, and when King tries to throw Head into the crowd, Al Snow launches an attack. The referee tries to break things up, but he ends up taking the snowplow. And when Lawler tries to blindside Snow, Al fires back and Lawler gets hit with Head a few times. Snow then takes out a few security guards and he runs away. Sting and his new tag team partner face Harlem Heat next on Nitro. Over on WWF Raw, Owen Hart and Mark Henry take on Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock. Sting takes a good long look at a fan's Ultimate Warrior poster on the way to the ring. God, could you imagine if Warrior showed up in WCW this year? That would definitely suck. Sting grabs a mic and he says Page better do some thinking tonight in regards to joining the Wolfpac. Dallas isn't Sting's partner, it's not Savage, it's not Konnan. Big sexy Kevin Nash is Sting's partner, and that means Nash is now a WCW Tag Team Champion. Nash makes his way down to the ring, he gets his tag belt, he then conducts a survey, and it sounds like the fans came to see the Wolfpac tonight, and Nash then sends a message to Kurt Hennig. If Kurt's no longer running with the pack, then Kurt's gonna be hunted by the pack. Booker T and Stevie Ray then make their entrance. Big Sexy shows no fear as Stevie Ray squares up to him. And speaking of Stevie, it looks like he's still ordering Booker around a little and telling him what to do as the match begins. Booker shoulder blocks Sting, but he loses his footing when ducking a leapfrog. Sting sends Booker out of the ring after a hip toss. Booker complains about his knee to Stevie Ray, but he gets back in the ring to resume the match. He hits Sting with his running forearm, and Stevie Ray gets upset at Booker not following up on the attack. Stevie tags in, he gets vicious by kicking Sting in the head and choking him with his boot, and he tells his brother that's how you do it. Sting fires back with a clothesline. Nash then comes in and he attacks Stevie in the corner with knee strikes. Stevie fires back with a rake to the eyes and a body slam, but his elbow drop misses, giving Nash a chance to tag out. We come back from a commercial break to see Booker missing a dropkick. There's Kevin in again with those knee strikes in the corner. Booker tries his best to fight back, but a big boot puts the TV champion down, and now Harlem Heat have a big problem. The Wolfpac are gonna annoy the hell out of Stevie Ray by keeping Booker as far away from his partner as possible, and Booker ends up taking quite the beating here. Sting and Nash tag in and out while destroying Booker. Nash even tells Stevie Ray to suck it, and there's nothing Stevie Ray can do but look on. Eventually, Sting misses a stinger splash and Booker's able to hit his his sidewalk slam. Stevie Ray gets that all-important tag, he floors Sting with a clothesline followed by a power slam, and the match comes to an end when Stevie decides to tell Nash to suck it before spitting on Big Sexy. Stevie took his eye off the ball for way too long, and Sting's able to end it with a Scorpion Death Drop. So after all that, it was Stevie who ended up costing Harlem Heat the victory. Way to go, Stevie Ray. On Raw, Sergeant Slaughter gets paid overtime this week. He once again has to send the nation back to the locker room, so at least there's work available for Slaughter in WWF right now. Jim Ross says that Dan Severn, quote, separated D'Lo's pectoral muscles from his chest cavity when he applied that modified bow and arrow last week. So Severn gave D'Lo the Cody Rhodes treatment and he tore his pecs, apparently. Also, Owen Hart made that same mistake of attacking someone when he also has a match later in the night. Rookie mistake from the Blackheart. Shamrock hits Owen with a jumping back elbow followed by a clothesline. Severn watches on as Owen counters an ankle lock with an enziguri, and Owen's able to briefly lock in a chicken wing. When Shamrock counters with a hammerlock, Owen hits a low blow. Big Mark Henry plants Shamrock with a power slam. Kenny Boy gets the chance to tag out after dodging a corner attack, and Severn ain't messing around tonight. Dan the Man throws Henry down with a belly to belly. He then hip tosses Henry and locks in the armbar, but Henry tags out after landing a back elbow. Owen and Severn mat wrestle for a bit, and Owen ends up taking a belly to belly too. Mark saves Owen from the same fate as D'Lo, and then Severn takes a low blow from Owen in the nation's corner. The ref was distracted by Ken Shamrock. Owen accidentally hits Mark Henry with a missile dropkick. Shamrock comes in and he cleans house, but when he misses a Hurricane Rana on Owen, Owen's able to lock in a sharpshooter, and that should be the end of it. Triple H and the Outlaws then hit the ring to make Owen pay for his crimes against X-Pac, so we have a DQ finish. Vader ends up coming out too to attack Mark Henry. The Rock and Kama run down to give Owen and Mark a little backup. Severn and Shamrock fight off Nation members too. It's a big old mess to end a match that should have been better. We've got a special treat next on Raw, a tag team Royal Rumble match. On Nitro, we've got an even bigger treat, a Scotty Steiner promo. Eric welcomes Scott on his new talk show, must be a new segment they're trying out here. And Big Papa Pump's now a big Hollywood star now that he hangs out with John Kreese and Hulk Hogan. He says it's great to be in New York, but it's not LA. If you want to wake up in the morning to the smell of smog, eat a few bagels and hop in taxis where the drivers don't speak English, stay in New York. Over in LA though, the sun always shines. Actors and actresses approach Scott in the streets of LA because they want to get close to the superstar, and Scott also received a lot of praise for his fine acting job on Nitro a while back when he fooled his brother and Mean Gene Okerlund. Mean Gene pointed out the tears running down Scotty's face, and Scott's happy happy that he tricked a man who's been in the business for a very long time. And as for Rick's sitting at home doing nothing, and it's all thanks to his brother. Rick had 2 chances to join the NWO and he refused, so Rick will never get the chance again to join the Black and White, and that's for life. Scotty done pretty well here. He would commonly trip over his words when cutting promos in the past, but absolutely no issues here. Good job, Big Bad Booty Daddy. Over on Raw, this Tag Team Royal Rumble was only announced during the previous match, so that's pretty awesome. The winners become the #1 contenders for the tag team titles. We start with LOD 2000, they're not going to win, and oh boy, Kane and Mankind. Looks like these two are going to compete in 2 matches tonight. Hawk and Animal decide to focus on Kane, and they do keep the big man stunned for a bit. Kane hits the mat after a double shoulder block, and the next entrants to enter this special Royal Rumble match are Bastard Bob and Ballbag Bart, the new Midnight Express. There's no eliminations as the ring begins filling up with more tag teams. The Biker Michaelackers come out next, followed by Golga and Kurgan. Kurgan joined the Jackals group of human oddities. Brilliant. The Midnights then get eliminated when Kane sends Bart out with a clothesline, and then Too Much enter the Royal Rumble, their first Raw match as a tag team. There's no eliminations between Too Much's entrance and the next entrance. The clock's ticking down. Who's it gonna be? Steve, fucking Blackman and Farouk hit the ring, and you can just end this one right now, lads. It's over. I thought this had to be the last entrance. I mean, how many tag teams are currently in WWF? The clock ticks down again, and we've got Taka Michinoku and Bradshaw joining forces once again to compete in this tag team Royal Rumble. A Biker Michaelacker gets eliminated during Taka and Bradshaw's entrance. The clock ticks down again for team number 10. I'm just burning through all my little intro clips right now. This is awesome. Totally forgot to mention that the Headbangers came in earlier too, but who cares? Funk and Scorpio eliminate Kurgan, Mankind eliminates Taka, Brian Christopher ends up accidentally eliminating himself and his tag team partner as Kane military presses Mosh over the top rope. Dirty Stinking Hyenas, Hawk and Animal work together to eliminate Steve Blackman, but he didn't really want to win this Royal Rumble anyway, so it's fine. And Kane then immediately eliminates Animal. Little known fact, Kane's a massive Steve Blackman fan. It comes down to Scorpio and Funk versus Kane and Mankind. The babyfaces are looking good as Terry Funk hits Kane a few times with a steel chair, but they struggle to eliminate the big man thanks to Mankind lending a hand. Funk takes a hard chair shot that leaves him sitting on the middle rope after going over the top rope. Scorpio takes a tombstone pile driver, and Funk gets eliminated when Foley holds a chair to his face, and Kane performs a big boot. Kane and Mankind are the #1 contenders for the tag team titles, but they have no time to celebrate because they now fight Austin and Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell. We have a main event cage match on Nitro, DDP versus Randy Savage. On Raw, we have a Hell in a Cell match, Kane and Mankind versus Austin and Undertaker. Coincidence? I don't think so. So, let's see how Piper plays into this cage match on Nitro. Randy targets DDP's forever injured ribs at the start of the match before throwing Dallas into the cage. Corner strikes from Macho get followed up with another cage bump attempt, but DDP counters and it's Randy who gets rammed into the cage panel. DDP goes upstairs, but he ends up getting crotched. Still though, he's able to backdrop Savage into the cage and Macho's now holding that injured knee. DDP stays on Macho with a few boots. The two take turns at throwing each other into the cage. Neither man's getting the advantage here, so they end up crashing into each other and Piper begins counting to 10 in a cage match. We come back from a break and DDP manages to floor Savage with a clothesline. He then signals for the diamond cutter, but Macho hits DDP with a low blow. Randy's then able to pull off a body slam and we see the big elbow, but he can't cover DDP quick enough. When DDP kicks out, Randy takes it out on Piper and the two men shove each other. Randy ends up blindsiding the referee. The hot rod takes a pile driver, so now we have no referee in this match. Page pulls off a diamond cutter. He falls to the mat afterwards. He slowly crawls over to Randy to make the cover, but Piper's still trying to get to his feet. So the pinfall doesn't happen, and this is pretty much how it wraps up. Piper ends up getting punched by Dallas when he tries to break the competitors up in the corner. Piper fights back and Dallas gets taken out. Randy and Piper then start fighting each other, and it's Piper who ends up getting the better of both DDP and the Macho Man at the end of this cage match. The cage begins to rise and NW Hollywood storm the ring. The black and white attack all three men while the cage lowers down again. So Piper, DDP and Savage are trapped in there with Hogan, Giant, Bret Hart, Brian Adams and the rest of Team Hollywood. The Wolfpac run down, but they can't get in the cage. Sting climbs to the top, but he can't break through. So Nash goes back up the entranceway. He finds the remote control for the cage, and just as the cage begins to rise, Nitro fades out. It's a pretty annoying ending, but to be fair, Raw's ending isn't much better. Say goodbye to the Macho Man Randy Savage though. We won't see him compete again in the ring for quite some time. On Raw, Mankind and Kane stay in the ring, and Mankind has a poem about Stone Cold and The Undertaker going down inside the cell. He says this won't be the end, it's just the beginning, because at King of the Ring, it's Mankind's turn to play inside the cell with the dead man. We get a taster tonight though. Austin makes his way down to the cell first, but he doesn't step in until his partner arrives. Only problem is, The Undertaker doesn't show up, so something must have happened to the Phenom. The ring announcer introduces The Undertaker twice, but he won't come out, so it appears Stone Cold has quite the problem here. Austin manages to fight off Mankind on the outside, but Kane joins in and we have a fight on the rampway. Paul Bearer locks himself in the cell, hoping to keep himself safe while Kane and Mankind destroy Austin. But then The Undertaker appears from under the ring, and finally the dead man gets his hands on Paul. Taker beats the hell out of Bearer while Kane climbs the cage. Just like Sting on WCW Nitro, Kane's trying to get inside, but he can't do it. We see that Paul's been busted open pretty badly as Austin hits Mankind with the WWF Championship. Bearer's truly locked inside hell as Undertaker continues to wreck his own manager, and things continue to escalate on the outside as Austin hits Foley with a steel chair, once across the back and again on the head. Undertaker goes to hit Paul with the ring steps and, well, at least he kept him protected. Stone Cold meanwhile climbs up the cell to fight Kane, and the crowd erupts when the two start fighting. But this is where Raw ends and fans are left wanting a whole lot more, naturally. If you've got the WWE Network or Peacock, you can see what happened when Raw went off the air. Kane and Austin climb down and the Undertaker goes after his little brother. Austin gets in the ring and he ends up taking a mandible claw, but he's able to hit a stunner and the babyfaces win the match. Raw wins Reliving the War this week. A Royal Rumble match and a Hell in a Cell match on Monday Night TV is pretty crazy, and even though neither were particularly special, it was still fun watching WWF pull out all the stops. The highlight of Nitro for me were the issues between Stevie Ray and Booker T, but I did not enjoy the cage match at all if I'm honest. There's nothing there to talk about really, and it's a shame too because Randy and DDP always had brilliant matches together. I think Randy's legitimate knee injury explains a lot though. Raw's now on 65 points, Nitro has 57 points, and we've got 16 ties. In the TV ratings, things remain the exact same as last week, a 4.3 for Raw and a 4 for Nitro. Next week on Raw, we've got all the King of the Ring quarterfinal matches, including Rock vs Triple H and Marc Mero vs Double J. The Hell in a Cell makes another appearance just before the King of the Ring pay-per-view. On Nitro, Karl Malone's appearance at Bash at the Beach gets made official. Kevin Green's back and he takes on the Giant in a one-on-one match. And we've also got Bret Hart vs Chris Benoit. Should be a good one. Thanks for watching another episode of Reliving the War, guys. I really do appreciate it. And please, take care.
God damn it, pal. Another sweet episode of Reliving the War. This wrestling bios guy certainly has the jam, unlike Bret Hart, who I definitely did not screw out of the WWF Championship. Bret screwed Bret. I have no sympathy whatsoever for Bret Hart, and I sincerely hope Bret's having a great time in WCW watching Eric Bischoff stuff his nose right up Hulk Hogan's turd hole. I gotta go now. I'm gonna go suck on a big bratwurst while dancing to Disco Inferno's absolute bangin' theme song while my son Shane makes me a chicken sandwich. Thanks for watching Reliving the War. And one last thing, Stone Cold Steve Austin can suck my plums.